Enzo Maresca's tactical genius against Tottenham prevailed as he held Thomas Frank's side to just 0.1 xg, generating 3.68 xg of their own and only conceding 3 shots against Spurs. So how did they do it? So starting off with the defensive actions heat map from the game. If you guys haven't seen this app, I'm pretty sure it's called Insight 90. Do check it out. It's by these guys in the top right corner. You can see their ats there. Check them out on Twitter, because it's brilliant for getting visuals like this. But what we're going to be talking about mainly in the tactical analysis section of this video is the defensive side of the game and the out possession sort of intricacies and tactical choices and the personnel choices within this game, because it was so important. But I wanted to sort of show this first, just to highlight, as you can see, the average defensive action being much higher up near the halfway line for Chelsea, as you can see by that dotted line there. And it just shows how proactive Chelsea were in that press. And it helped them for multiple reasons, not allowing Spurs to get control of the game. Again, if we go over to a few stats which are off screen here, 52% possession for Chelsea, 48% for Tottenham. They only had 0.10 expected goals compared to Chelsea's 3.68. Only 3 shots for Tottenham compared to Chelsea's 15. First half, Tottenham only had 2 shots. Second half, they were limited to just the 1. So if we're talking about a dominant performance, this could have been 2 or 3-0 to Chelsea. And those stats and the way that the game was sort of mapped out was down to quite a few different reasons. Now, what we're going to talk about is the biggest talking points in this game for me. A lot of it coming down this right-hand side of the pitch. Sanchez was absolutely key. Wesley Fofana. The decision of Reece and Gusto, and we're going to talk about why they're both important in this game. And I thought Enzo and Caicedo were both excellent as well, but we're actually going to not really touch on Enzo and Caicedo because I thought they were both brilliant. Caicedo deservedly man of the match. Now, of course, we'll vaguely talk about Caicedo because it's hard not to. When he assisted the goal, he won back so many sort of loose balls, the second balls that he wins back, and he's so important in that sense. So he will be mentioned. But I think this right-hand side of the team and the defence is really, really key to talk about. And let's just get straight into it, because I think the addition of Wesley Fofana back in the team, if you watched the preview, you saw how important I thought he'd be. Look at this defensive actions map in the middle here. And just look at all of these actions where it's aerial duels 1, defensive aerial duels 1. So he won 6 out of 6, but in that area there, he won, I don't know what's happened there, but he won 4 out of 4 in terms of defensive aerial duels 1. And you can see in this just half the pitch how aggressive and how important he was. And if we move on to this next slide, you're going to see why. Now, we spoke about this in recent weeks, how Chelsea have been bullied in terms of teams being able to go long and really put Chelsea under pressure, make them almost crumble under that pressure, because we lose that first duel and then players around aren't ready to win the second because they're sort of on their toes, and we're so often not winning that first ball, and we're not even going for the first ball because we've got that little bit of angst in the defensive line on somebody who's not really willing to go and sort of put out the fire before it starts in terms of a defensive aerial duel specialist. And bringing Wes back into the team, even if he wasn't going to win those duels, was extremely key, because what he was doing is he was being that aggressor. And then what you have is you have Moises Caicedo and Reece James as a midfield 2 to give you that little bit more physicality to then swarm the second ball. You've also then got Gusto as another addition in the team. And then Kukurea, he's out the picture here because his job is to sort of be on Kudus, who's that main outlet for Spurs. And we'll talk about that when we talk about the press. But having this setup where you have that aggressor and then you have really good second ball duelists ready to swarm that second ball, it meant that we were so much less bullyable from not only the first ball, from having somebody go and put and then really aggressive and plant themselves on it like Fofana did in this game, but also the second ball duelist as well. And you can see Chalobah getting ready to sort of swarm and be around Wesley Fofana as well. So that's key, because he's sort of got a dual role there as Wes has gone to attack the ball in this middle of the pitch. But Chelsea's man-to-man press in this game was just so key, because again, we spoke about it here, but they were willing to go man for man all over the pitch. And this is why the decisions between the likes of Reece and Gusto are so key, because if we go to this next phase here, what you can see, and this is something we did against Liverpool, but from the opposite side of the pitch, where Garnacho would jump onto the left centre-back or the right centre-back of Liverpool and Konate, And then Cucurella would have a larger distance to jump from left back all the way up the pitch to press the Liverpool right back. However, in this game against Tottenham, with Kudus being that main threat, as we go back to here, I think Maresca was a little bit more keen on having less jumps on that right-hand side, or the left-hand side for Chelsea, because one of their best ways of getting progression or even just building and generating dangerous chances is by getting Porro on the ball and then releasing Kudus. So by having those jumps, if Cucurella was having to jump far onto Porro and then Chalobah was having to shift onto Kudus, then it may have opened up a few gaps for them to play through. So instead, what we do is we switch it and we go to this other side of the pitch. Now, in order to do that, Reece playing in this area, probably not going to be able to do it to the same effect. So instead, we go with Malo Gusto, because then when Neto makes that jump into here, you've also got Reece up here. If we just sort of take these off now, Reece has jumped up. You've got the two-man in the pivot here. You've got Caicedo following Sarr. So you've basically got man for man every area in the middle of the pitch. You've got Neto jump into there. So then Gusto is the one that's got to jump the really far distance. You don't want Reece doing that. So Reece at right back in this game was a no-go for that exact reason, because you want Cucurella to stay with Kudus and you want this player to jump a large distance. Gusto jumps. Fofana then has to come and jump over onto Xavi Simons, which he did really, really well as well, being aggressive and backing up the press. And then Chalobah would come over with Moani, Cucurella with Kudus. And all of a sudden, you've got man for man in not only the front line, 1, 2, 3, 4, but you've also got the middle of the pitch, man for man, and then at the back, 3v3 as well, with Wes and Gusto jumping up. So that was a key decision from Maresca to not only flip the sides from left to right in how we jump in our press, but also the personnel within it, with the additions, like we said, of Wes, Gusto, and Reece for those second balls. And I think that those decisions were absolutely key in this game. And as you can see here, this is Wes backing up the press. You've got Gusto jumping that larger distance here, Neto jumping onto Van de Ven, Gusto jumping onto Spence, and then Fofana arriving with Xavi Simons to win the ball back. So that's exactly what the plan was. So now we're going to just end out this video by talking about the other defensive aspect of this game, which was the set pieces. So we'll go away from the tactics board and we'll speak about it over here. Now, you can't actually see it on this picture, which is a bit annoying. Maybe I'll be able to put a different image up to show it. But what Chelsea did from the long throws, and again, this is something we spoke about a lot in the preview, with Danso being on the pitch, it's something Chelsea were going to have to deal with. They were leaving 3 players high up the pitch. You had Garnacho, Pedro, and then he had Gusto on this occasion. Now, a lot of people are pointing out the idea that it was Gusto there. I think that the point here was for Neto to be a little bit more sort of ready to not only press here, but also then to apply pressure on the edge of the box and be really aggressive. But then if he won the ball back, I think maybe Maresca wanted Neto to be the one to carry it forward before releasing one of these players here. So maybe that's the idea for Neto being a little bit deeper than Gusto on this example. But what this does is, again, everybody's pointed it out now. You've just seen it on my Twitter if you haven't already. All these 3 players for Tottenham, let's do that in a different colour. These 3 players for Tottenham, they don't know whether to go forward or come all the way back. And again, you've got players like Xavi Simons here, who is naturally an attacking player, but because you want to put your bigger players in the box over here, as you can see, this big area here, it means that if you're going to send players back, maybe you want it to be your more offensive players, but then you've got a bit of a mismatch because Xavi Simons against João Pedro, Gusto, Garnacho on the break, Xavi Simons, he's going to have to foul them. I think he did on one occasion, got a yellow card. That's the only way he's really going to be able to defend that situation, because he doesn't want to put in the hard yards. He doesn't want to defend 1v1 in sort of transition, and that's going to create difficulties for other sort of opponents when you're defending in transition, and this was a way that Chelsea managed to deal with it. But the key man in this, and this is why when I highlighted everybody, we were speaking about Robert Sanchez. A few weeks ago, I said that Chelsea are too easily bullied in the box. So, by pushing these players forward, what you now afford for, already look at Sanchez's start position. Far off the goal, somebody behind him on the near post, he doesn't care. He's ready to attack this area where we've been missing that first contact almost every single time, and then that's been leading to the back post flick, and it's been resulting in goals from these long throw situations and from corners. So winning that first ball here is key. And if one of our defensive players isn't going to be that leader to really sort of make sure that they're the one planting their head on it and getting it gone, which is something that I've called for, then you need to use and find a different way. And Rob Sanchez, whilst he has his moments on the ball with making mistakes, I do think he's been in brilliant form for the last 6 odd months. But you can look at this, and his cross claiming is elite. So having him carving the space for him to be able to do this, make that first contact, and then release these guys in transition is not only a strength for us in terms of maybe creating chances ourselves, which we did, but it's also a strength in the sense that we now have something to be able to, and a weapon to be able to defend the box in a different way than we have in recent weeks, to really sort of disengage those set piece, those throw-in threats, those sort of aerial threat in the box that allows Chelsea to get bullied quite easily. So this was another key tweak from Maresca and his staff, Quaver and all of those guys, to really sort of get this game and make sure that nothing happened that could have spun the momentum away from home. And I just think that was another huge decision. So we're going to end it there because I want to sort of make these a little bit more concise now and talk about one or two things in a bit more detail rather than running through the entirety of the match. So please do like, subscribe and all that stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one.